Hey up folks, how are you? Welcome along. What is it? It's 8 a.m. It's nearly 8 a.m. anyway. It's Tuesday. It's the 8th of March, 2022. It's a bad hair day. That's what it is. Welcome, this is your 8 a.m. movement snack. If you're on catch up, pop us a comment in, let us know. What have you been up to? What's happening in your part of the world? It's a sunny day here. Beautiful sunny day. So I'm trying to put my sock on at the same time. It's a sunny day here, but it's cold. It's -1 on the old temperature gauge, which is a wee bit chilly. So I've just seen Kel off to work. That sounds bad, doesn't it? Just seen her off. Get out. Go on, off you go. Just waved a goodbye, as I do every morning if I'm here. Off to work. Wrapped up tight and warm. I've come to do this. I'm not at work till a little bit later on this morning, so it's one of those ones where I can have my socks on, don't need to have my shoes on, ready to go out. So that's how you find me this morning. Right, I'm going to leave you there and I'm going to pop across send it to people as they come on board. I'm just putting my socks on as well while I'm doing this. So, good morning to Debex who's watching. Good morning to Carol Elliott who's in with us as well. Morning, Carol. How the devil are you? And Christine Perry, Mrs. P. Cold, windy but sunny morning. Yeah, we haven't got the wind. A little bit of a breeze, actually. I tell a lie because the old windmill in the back garden, or the is it classed as a windmill? I don't know. It's a wind ornament, or statue, or whatever. I don't know what you relate it as. Actually, I don't know what they're called. Perhaps you know. One of those spinny things. Anyway, it's not like a dream catcher. It's on a pole. About this big, and it revolves when the wind catches it. I can't think what on earth it's called, but you know what I'm talking about, don't you? That's going, and then it's stopping, and then it's going again. So there's a bit of wind out there. But a bit like yourself, Christine, a beautiful sunny morning, but cold. So we'll see what happens as far as the day goes, shall we? Right, Sandra Hewitt is in as well. Sunny's out, but still cold for you down in Waterlooville, down on the south coast. It's going to be one of those days, I think. Perhaps it'll warm up a little bit later on. Who knows, eh? But we take it as we find it, don't we? George, how the devil are you? You've been circulation boosting already. How very dare you? How very dare you? Circulation boost without me? Joking, George. You've been circulation boosting already. We had high wind during the night and contests of the food all over the street. Oh my God, no. Operation cleanup. I hate that. Is it still windy as well, George? Because then the worst thing is you're trying to pick it up and it's more's blowing, or as you get to it, there's a big whoosh, and it goes woof, 50 yards ahead of you. Oh, come back here. Or is that just me? Running around like a lunatic sometimes, trying to pick things up. George, I hope you're okay. I hope you managed to get it all sorted. There's nothing worse than that, is there, eh? But good job for cleaning it up. Good job for getting it. It's bin day here. Our bin men are on strike, actually, so we get a collection every 2 weeks of our household waste, and then in between we've got collection points around the city that we have to take our rubbish to. I've been paying council tax. Don't get me started. So it's bin day today, so usually bins really overflowing, as it would be, and this would be a day when you'd normally get the wind, so that bins get blown all over the place. Big wheelie bins chasing them down the road. Anyway, Francis McFarlane, good morning to you, in for a sunny and windy, a wee bit nippy in Bristol. Kels, how the devil are you? Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, everyone. Dave and his sound effects. Sorry. I come with my own sound effects, it's the way to get the answers you want. George Anderson and the responses you want. Winds in 60s, forecast for the rest of the day. Stay safe then, George, okay? We've got a 3-2-1 bong. I don't know what's the 3-2-1 bong? What's that all about? I don't do 3-2-1 bongs. I do whoosh, 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 bong. I tell you what, for our whoosh today, should we have a 1980s synth drum? Think of Ring My Bell. That's what you want to think of, okay? So, good morning to Sheila Day. We'll just quickly do these before we do it. To George, sorry. Sheila Day, good morning. Bright and frosty where you are. Vivian Dickinson, good morning to you. Sunny and windy day where you are. And Margaret Hamilton is saying good morning to us all. Let's get ourselves started, everybody, folks. If you want to lose those comments off the bottom of the screen, just quick hello to Carolina, because that means the collective are in. We can swipe to the right and they are gone. You ready for your wish, wish, wish? Good. Good morning, everybody. You're with Dave Montgomery from Lane Life Training. Today is Tuesday. It's the 8th of March 2022, and this is your 8 a.m. movement snap. Time to get those body boosting. George, we're going to give it another circulation boost if that's all right. Everybody else, we're going to get our circulation boosted. We'll get ourselves going. Now, bring yourself in. So I'm going to rush out today because I can probably put my socks on. I'm not going to have shoes on. I can have my shorts on. I'm going to go out till a little bit later on. Fixed external support available to us. Sturdy chair. Sorry, I went a bit commentatorish then, didn't I? Fixed external support available to us. We've got our sturdy chair available as well. Nothing on the floor is going to cause me any issues in the set. I've got my socks on because I'm on a carpeted floor. Feel the floor beneath my feet. If we're on a hard floor, remember, it's sensible, comfortable footwear, as it would be for the rest of the day. Posture-wise, let's line everything up. Let's lift and lengthen. Gives me a chance to tuck that belly in. Lift the shoulders up, take them back and press them down. So we've opened the rib cage and we've allowed more space, more capacity into the chest there. Seated, it's exactly the same, lining up wise, but before we do it, we've got to bring ourselves away from the back of the chair. It's a lift and a shift to bring ourselves into the front third of the chair. And then once we're lined up there, we need to bring everything in, lift the shoulders up, back and down. And let's start with our circulation boosting. Just bringing the heels off the floor, coming up onto the balls of the feet and the toes gives us that opportunity to start those feet moving. This is going to start our circulation boosting. And as always, we start small and we make it bigger to improve and to increase the intensity of that circulation. So from here, we can take it into a march, lifting the foot clear of the floor, peeling and placing, yeah? So we peel the heel, we peel the ball, we peel the toes, and we place the toes, place the ball, place the heel. So peel, 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 place, place, place. Sounds like the title for a costume drama, that, doesn't it? Peel, 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 place, place, place. Right, so get these feet moving, get those toes pointing down towards the floor if you can. Let's pop an arm in as well, remembering all the time that in seated we've got the option here. We can come back into these heel raises if we get muscle fatigue into our hip flexors. Now, seated and standing, if we're not using support, we can change our hand to the other side, and we can change as many times as we want. We can change hands standing if we are using support. We just need to think about it. So in front, hand down, hand off. That simple. If it's to the side, however, let's keep going on one side for a little bit longer, because what we need to do to change is lose the arm, make the march a little bit smaller, so we've got smaller steps and we take as many of them as we need to turn around, say hello to Dobbin as we come past. Once we've got to the side, we can bring that march back into a bigger movement again, so we've got that bigger movement happening. Now finally, in seated and in standing, if we feel steady and stable, we can put both arms and both legs together. So again, we've made it bigger by having more of the body involved. So more body parts are moving, which means that we've got a bigger movement happening across the whole of the body. Heart's going to beat a little bit faster. We're going to breathe a little bit heavier. Not too heavy though, we don't want to be out of breath. Okay? Let's bring the arms out. Let's make the march a little bit smaller again. Bring it down to a heel raise and then bring it to a pause around about the 2 or 3 minute mark. Should feel as though we want to take a couple of deep breaths. So let's get started with our first trio of trios. We start here, we go here, and we go there. Yeah? So it's top, trunk, toes. Starting at the very top. Base of support. Let's get this sorted right from the start. Let's take the feet a little bit wider, so we're about shoulders width, just outside of our hips. Lifted and lengthened, shoulders back and down. Same in seated. First movement is our shoulders. So we're going to lift the shoulders towards the ears. And then we're going to press them back down. Yeah, but it's a press rather than a lower. We want to take them back past where they started so we get the fullest range of motion. Keep the neck long, bringing the shoulders to the ears, not the ears down to the shoulders. So it's this lift and this press. And that gets us that biggest range of motion that we can. 4 or 5 is what you're looking for. And then once you've done your 4 or 5, take a momentary pause, and then let's bring it into this rotation. So we come forward, up towards our ears, back past the earlobe, shoulder blades together, and press down. And we do it this way round, so we make sure that we end up in that good postural position with the chest open. Again, slow and controlled, so we make sure we get the biggest range of motion. If we race it, it becomes a bit of this. If we can slow it right down, we can make sure we get the biggest amount. We can get that shoulder rotating as big as possible and feel every part mobilising as we go around. Once you've done your 4 or 5, take a pause. Let's head into our head turn. Now, have some support available, because turning our head can make us feel a little disoriented sometimes. Doesn't mean we have to use it, but have it there in case we do. Eye line stays level, head comes to the side towards our shoulder, we pause in the centre, and then we take it the other way. Now, this pause in the centre is the moment that the system in our ears, our vestibular system, just balances itself back out, just resets itself before we take the head the other way again. So it's this turning of the head, and that engages the system in our ears. It tells the body which way we're moving and how fast. So this pause allows that just to balance itself back out again. Remember with this movement that we don't want any pain, unless we have pain in our neck already, in which case we don't want any more pain. 4 or 5 on each side. And again, slow and controlled, so you can try and get the best range of motion that you can. Once you've done your 4 or 5, take a pause. We're coming into the back of our neck. So I'm going to come down into a kneeling position. Now, it's this part of our neck that we want to straighten out. So, fingers on chin, eye line stays level, and our movement is here. So we can either keep the fingers on the chin, not pressing but guiding, or we can leave the fingers where they are. Come back and come forward. But do you see how you're lengthening through the back of the neck? And by keeping the eye line level, we give ourselves an extra chin. Don't see a great deal happening if we look at it straight on, apart from the chin coming in. But we're restacking our head right onto the top, of our spine. So putting it back on its axis and getting that alignment down through our body. And let me just turn off that notification. It's beeping away a couple of times and I hadn't realised I hadn't turned it off. I do apologise. So let me pop that. And we will be done. So 4 or 5 of those is what you're looking for. Once you've done your 4 or 5, take a pause. We're back into a circulation booster. We're going feet only this time, so march. So using your support if you need to. Seated, remember you've got that option if you want to come back into just a heel raise, or how about a toe tap diagonally forward. We're looking at 30 seconds of movement, just enough to give the body a little boost before we move from our head to our trunk. Okay, so bring this back down to a pause when you've got to your 30 seconds. Have a rest there, and let's get ourselves set up. Now, in standing, good basic support. So outside your hips, in line with your shoulders, feet flat on the floor, knees soften. Here, we want to make sure that our hips stay still. Our first movement is going to be a side bend. So down to the side, pause in the centre, and then the other way. Support in front, use the support and change every time. Support to the side, come into your support, back to the centre, and then take it back to your support again. Do your 4 or 5, as many steps as you need to turn, and then do the other side. Seated, let's get used to that big space of support if standing's on our radar. And exactly the same movement, straight down, straight up. If your chair leg comes straight down, you can use the leg of the chair as a guide. But we're coming down, we're coming back up and pausing. This pause here is just a moment, so we don't just swing from side to side. But it might be a point at which you want to go, actually, do you know what? I just have a little bit of a pit stop. Give yourself a breather. Reset. And away I go again. It's up to you. Now, straight down, straight up, using our legs, using the chair legs if they're straight, helps us with that. But what it also helps us with is the range of motion, doesn't it? Because we can feel how far we're going. So I can reach right down to that cross beam on my chair now, and I couldn't do that a couple of weeks ago. Or I can reach past my knee, and that was not possible when I first started doing these. So it's a great way to measure improvement, because a lot of the time we don't see any improvement ourselves, do we? It's only other people telling us or having something to measure it against. Now think about reaching down to pick something up from a table by the side of you, reach down to get something out of a bag, reaching into a lower cupboard, those sorts of movements. Once you've done your 4 or 5 on each side, a pause, set yourself back up with this tall position. Hips are not going to move. We don't want the hips to move during this one. So elbows in line with shoulders, and he's seated, we can take ourselves to the side. Turning to the side, coming back into the centre and pausing, and then turning the other way. And this will enable us to feel through our bottom, that's the words I'm looking for, feel through our bottom whether we've got movement into our hips. So in standing, we need to think about these hips not moving. So there's our movement. Exactly the same, but we're now having to focus on the hips not moving. And the same as with your side bend. You can change hands every time if you're using your support in front, to the side, you turn into your support back, and then you change to the side. Or you use your support as a reference point. So again, here, it might be that you've got the table or the sideboard or whatever it is in front of you, and you're leaning against it, or you've got something behind you. And as you turn, depending upon how it feels, so with behind, if my bum starts to lift, and I've got movement in my hips, in front, if my hips start to come away from that support, we know we've got movement in the hips. So that might help us to really focus into getting this movement right into where we want it, into the core here. Turning to the side, pausing in the centre. Let's think about everyday tasks. Putting your seatbelt on. Turning to talk to somebody, but rolling over in bed as well, all those sorts of things. Anything where we turn the body and we don't even think about it, the trunk is involved. 4 or 5 of those on each side, and try and focus on this hip staying still. Certainly in standing, what we don't want is a twist of that knee. So if we get that, we start to get a bit of a twist in the knee because the foot stays flat on the floor. So if you need to make the movement smaller to start off with, get used to holding your hips still, the hips staying still. Once you feel comfortable with it, perhaps take it a little bit further. Once you're 4 or 5, take a pause, and let's go into our back extender. Now here, we're not leaning back. We're going to focus on this pelvis, not coming forward or backwards. So our movement, soften knees, is to lift the chest and to then extend backwards. So we come in and we release. We lift, we extend, we come back and we release. Now, again, you might want to use the front support or the back support for you as far as a reference point. Because in seated, what we get is the feeling through our bottom and the top of our thighs, whether we've got movement. So here's the lift, here's the extend, and I can feel from the way that my bottom of my hips and thighs are in contact with that chair, whether I've got movement into my pelvis. And we want to isolate it. We want the movement to be here. It's not a leaning backwards. It's focusing. So by lifting, we start to extend that those vertebrae anyway by lifting up. And then as we just extend back a little bit, we get that extension within there without actually putting a huge bend into the back of our back. 4 or 5 is what you're looking for. Make them count. Make them quality. Keep the eye line level. Any lower back pain, that is really going to help. Now, once you've done your 4 or 5, we're back into another circulation booster, but it's just the arms this time. So, arms only. Driving forward and back, you might want to make it a bit bigger so you get a bit of rotation in the shoulders and chest. But can you see how it's still the elbow that's driving backwards? Still not just a swing, it's an actual driven, controlled movement. So we're reaching forward, we're driving back, we're reaching forward, we're driving back. Oh, I went to a Sergeant Major-ish then, didn't I? Okay, so 30 seconds of this bigger movement. Start to slow it down a little bit, make it smaller, not slow it, make it smaller. Bring it to a pause, and we're ready to head down to our final trio. Ankle, feet, and toes. Let's get ourselves ready to go. Now again, in standing, use your support. We don't want to be worrying about balancing, we want to get the best range of motion out of our foot. Leg closest to support, plant it down on the floor. Knee soften, bring the other foot in next to it. Arm's going to go to the front eventually, but you might want to look the first time. Toe or heel on the floor, and then lift and put the opposite there. So let me do that again. Either toe and then place the heel in the same place, or start with your heel and put the toe in the same place, yeah? But it's the heel and toe going into the same place. Now, when your toe is pointing down, it's pointing. As you bring it across, scrunch those toes, and then as you place the heel down, splay them. 4 or 5 on one side, turn around to the other side, and away you go. Now, if standing's not on your radar, have a look at some of those other mobility movements we've done, and you might want to go over a couple of those again while we have a look at this. In seated, we can do the same movement. We just need to focus on it. So let's lift and sit tall, readjust the legs so we've got some room to do it in, and there we can get our toe and heel movement in the same place, and we can get that flexibility and that mobility happening in the ankle joint. Again, we've got the splay as the heel's on the floor. As we bring the foot over, we can scrunch, and then we can point. Or we can take a little arch on back into our chair. We can extend the leg away so it's just about an inch off the floor. That's all. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, look, just about an inch off the floor. Point the toes away and then bring them in towards your shin. And here's your scrunch of the toes. Here's your splay of the toes. Now, it's not about strength, so pop your foot down every couple if you need to. And certainly don't let it start to drift up. It's not about building strength into this upper part of the leg. It's about getting the best mobility out of that joint. So, whatever works for you. If you need to have a rest after each one so you can really focus on getting a good range of motion, do. Once you've done 4 or 5 on one side, you change to the other. Now, why do we mobilise those ankles? Well, I'll tell you why, and why do we focus on that heel-toe placement. If we walk, this is that movement, isn't it? That heel-toe action. Heel coming down, rolling through to the ball of the foot and lift onto toes at the back. But also, just stood here, let's think about our sway movements that we do later on in the day. We've got this movement here, and there's mobility into your ankles again, isn't there? As we've got that shift of weight from side to side. The foot is staying flat on the floor, so the ankle's having to change how it positions itself with the foot. And that coincides with pavements and roads and floors outside. They change underneath our feet continually, and the ankle has to react to that to help to keep us stable. Now, if you had socks on, did you feel your toes? Did you feel your toes gripping the floor as well? Because that's why we do the mobilisation of those. They act like our little fingers of our feet. That's you done for this Tuesday morning. Go forth and crowbar. Have a lovely day. Keep active, keep mobile, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at bright and breezy at 8 a.m. Crowbar away, and Bex and Kelsey will be with you a little bit later on. Have a good day, everybody. Toodaloos.